What is up, guys? This is Jared Spalding here, and as you'll notice, I kind of kept this video title purposely vague today just because, there's a lot to, detail within, but it's really one very strong idea, I guess you could say, or just one main idea, but there's a lot to talk about it today. So, of course, as you can tell, what I'll be discussing is profiting from the government's mistake. And notice how I didn't include mistakes, because there's one mistake I'm talking about in overall that is the thing that, at least in my experience, you can really profit from the most. And that, of course, is creating a fiat currency. And you might be saying, you might not be thinking that's a mistake to you. So you might be thinking, well, how is a fiat currency a mistake exactly? Let me explain what makes it one, or at least in my eyes. So, as you may know, the difference between a regular currency and fiat currency is a regular currency is one backed by precious metals, therefore only a limited amount can be produced of it, and its inflation always nets out to zero, while a fiat currency is one not backed by precious metals, and generally will have inflation on it because there's nothing of value backing it. It's basically, its value is non-existent, it has an imaginary value. So, I call this a mistake because not only do I feel like it is really robbing the wealth of people, the common person, through inflation, because the money that they earn, let's say in 1965, is going to be worth, 7 times less just about now than it would have been worth then, or, just 51 years ago that was, and today, and there's people alive today who have probably been saving since then, I can guarantee you. So it's not like, I'm saying since like 1900 or something. I'm talking about a time that wasn't even too long ago. I mean, of course, I wasn't alive then, but I'm sure even some of the people watching this channel, do remember that time, or at least were, born at that point. So, just to, really put that in perspective, that, that's over 100% inflation per decade, and that's really even less than a generation, if you think about it, because, I guess it depends on how long you consider a generation, but I can guarantee you it's more than a decade, because I don't think people are usually having children at 10 years of age. So, if you really think about it, it's basically a lot of wealth that is being lost over that time period. And it's really not too long of a time period for some people out there. Some people have been saving since then, I'm sure, and have lost a lot of wealth. So that's the first part that really makes a mistake, but also they are hurting themselves in the long run. Sure, they might be putting a band-aid on everything, to do that, to have taken us off the gold standard. It might have seemed in the short run like it would have a lot of good benefits, because now they can produce more currency to pay for war, right? Who doesn't love more money, right? Except it's not money, it's currency, and that's where the problem really comes in. It's not like you found out a way to create more precious metals and no one knew about it, and you were, able. Of course, even that would decrease the value of them if you put a bunch into circulation. But with currency, the supply and demand is just the same, except we have way too much supply for there to be any demand that is even, existent. You can't really even see the demand compared to the supply that we're constantly having pumped into circulation. And it's getting worse and worse every year. You're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars that would be produced just to meet the need for the amount of currency that is supposed to be produced. And really going to hurt the dollar in the long run, and including the government itself, because once their feeble dollar becomes worth nothing, or if, I guess I should say, because I'm not going to be able to predict the future any better than anyone else can, but if that did end up happening, it's going to hurt a lot more than any situation we've ever had before. It would be the worst depression the United States ever experienced, way worse than the Great Depression and the Depression after 2008. Both of those would be nothing compared to our entire economic system completely collapsing, and that would be bad for everyone. No one's going to benefit from that. Not the rich, not the poor, not even the middle class. So that's really what makes it a mistake, because it doesn't help anyone at all, And when you make a decision in the government, you want to try to help as many people as possible, because usually it isn't possible for everyone to like your decisions. But you want to make sure at least you're benefiting as many people as possible, and following, of course, the Constitution, and not favoring a certain group either. But you want to really be helping out the country more than, yourself or your personal friends, that demographic of people. But this doesn't help anyone, having a fiat currency in the long run. It might even have led to some economic growth in the beginning, but over time, when inflation starts to really kick in, and once the media catches on to this, and everyone's trying to get precious metals, and then all of a sudden, no one wants currency anymore. It's basically like having a bomb on your hands because everyone knows it's about to explode, but not in a good way. Not in the way where you're talking about a price explosion. I'm talking about explode like it dies. The dollar is going to be done, and no one wants it on their hands. Everyone's trying to get rid of it. It's like, I guess, a game of hot potato, if you will, because everyone's trying to get rid of it before the time runs out, but not everyone can, and those people, of course, are going to be losing pretty badly. And during this time period, precious metals are going to be what people are going to be going to, because the stock market is based on the value of currency. It itself might be a commodity, but at the same time, all businesses in the United States are going to be running on United States currency. That's the way it's going to work for those businesses. So if the dollar became worth nothing, these businesses who had all this, acquired currency sitting around, well, that's not going to be worth anything. So everyone who's wise, and at this point, is probably going to even be forming a bubble. So basically everybody at this point is going to be jumping to precious metals. And when the price shoots up, of course, there comes the profit. And not only that, but also, you were way ahead of the game. Nobody else besides you had really thought to do this. And of course, that's an exaggeration. Other people obviously are investing in precious metals. But my point being, the majority of people are not investing. And therefore, you are going to be ahead of the game because you'll have the advantage. You already had a precious metals acquired that you bought when they were still readily available, when not that many people wanted them, when they were undervalued even. Especially right now with people controlling the markets like JP Morgan, keeping the price of silver low so that they can make more of a profit from it. Every time it goes up a little bit, they'll sell, and then the price is low, they'll continue to acquire another 1 million ounces. And those people who are keeping the silver and gold undervalued by flooding the market constantly are really helping you out too, because you might think, well, I don't want someone having a monopoly over the market, but no one's powerful enough to corner the market, for one, and for two, as long as the price stays low, who cares? I mean, unless you're in this as if you would be, something like the stock market, you really shouldn't be expecting to sell anytime soon. And therefore, you'll be good to buy low right now. And since you can buy so low when there's such a huge supply, by the time this economic collapse did roll around, if it did, and everything came crashing down, you'd be way better prepared than anyone else. Everyone else is trying to protect their wealth all of a sudden, but you have already protected your wealth. And also, during this frenzy, you know how easy it's going to be to sell precious metals for 10, 20, even 50 times what you paid for them in a crisis like this where everybody wants them, but no one has them. And of course, everyone who does have them, you think they're going to be selling? Please. Nah, no one wants to sell at this point either. And the other thing is, you might be wondering, and this is actually would be a really good question to ask, is, how am I going to sell if I have nothing to retrieve for the precious metals? What are they going to give me, worthless US dollars? And that's the point where that would be a really difficult situation to sell in. You would be really right about that. If the US dollar had completely collapsed, I mean, how would people even be buying precious metals, valueless US currency? But at that point, you'd probably have to be using a foreign currency that actually still maintained its value. And of course, staying in currencies for too long isn't too good. You don't know what's going to happen in other currencies, especially in the situation where the United States currency collapsed. But I would probably have to guess that, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see why in a second here, but every other world currency pretty much would grow stronger if our currency collapsed, because there's less currency circulating, There's a lot less currency in circulation at this point, and inflation, and every time we print another dollar, it doesn't only hurt our economy, but it hurts every economy, because every time any country prints a dollar that's not backed by anything, that dollar can be, transferred to U.S. currency, or, Italian currency, or German currency, or any kind of currency you really could think of, it could be transferred to. So it would still, while maybe not in itself holding value in another country, it can still be transferred into their currencies. Therefore, every other currency would be growing really strong. Precious metals would be extremely high, and with that huge demand for them, all of a sudden, and you could be really reaping the benefits, selling them off. And of course, no one's going to have any foreign currency at this point, so you're probably not going to be able to sell immediately. It's probably going to be either A, the government would have to reestablish a system of currency based on precious metals, or B, you'd have to go to another country and sell. But in other countries, of course, the price would be driven up too, because everybody would be trying to buy from foreign countries. And the other thing is that if this currency did collapse completely, I mean, the whole thing is really, how would anybody be buying precious metals? You know, people would be trying to buy them and drive up their value, and the demand would be shooting up. But at the same time, U.S. currency wouldn't really be worth much anymore, but you'd still be protected by the precious metals, you know, because you'd have all those precious metals that still carry value in every other country, not just the United States. And sure, maybe something like these numismatic coins wouldn't carry as much value in another country because they don't have as much significance, but that's why, for one, diversifying other foreign numismatics, such as Canadians, Spanish coins, stuff like that, other, you know, countries where you might be going to, and even Canada would probably be hurt the most, besides the U.S. from us having an economic collapse. But, you know, you could go over to the country potentially, and with your precious metals, it would be shooting up around the world in value because everybody would be trying to get them at that point, and you'd be one of the people that actually had them. And everybody in these foreign countries would be trying to reap the benefits, so you'd have to be really fast about it, really trying to be quick about it. But, you know, that is really, I think, how you can profit off of what the government's doing. They're a mistake, because if we had a currency based on precious metals, then there'd be no room to gain any value besides on numismatics, because actual bullion would have no value above, you know, it'd only be worth the same amount forever, because currency would always be locked to it and based on it. And, you know, let's say $1 would be retrievable for 1 ounce of silver, right? Currency, for one, would be a lot stronger, but for two, every, you know, dollar would be worth 1 ounce of silver, and every ounce of silver would be worth $1. So in that situation, that's where numismatics really would protect you as well, because they would still carry value even if, you know, the silver in them wasn't worth anything anymore, or only worth, you know, $1 a piece. And of course, if the U.S. establishes new currency, it would be a lot stronger, so you'd still get your money out of silver, but at that point, there'd be no room to grow with bullion. Only numismatics would ever be able to grow, because they hold that rarity factor. You know, they hold things above generic, or the tiny little premium that generic bullion has on it, which would be non-existent if you get it for exactly spot price from the government, which would be $1 an ounce, or whatever they decided to fix the value of the dollar according to silver too. But anyway, that's how, you know, you can really profit from this mistake. And hope you did enjoy the video. I know it's kind of rambling a little bit, so I am sorry about that. But that is it for this one. Peace, love, and much respect.